I wasn't going to garden this year. I came out and all of the cuttings that I just threw in the garden beds, they took seed. So, just out of curiosity, I'm going to thin out the little tiny ones. I'm going to keep the stronger ones. I'm going to see what happens. We do that a lot. We dismiss. We always look for the champions and the success cases and stuff like that, and we sort of miss out on the underdog. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the garden. They call it survivorship bias. When we focus and concentrate on all the successes, we miss all the data from the underdogs. Take a look. I apologize for no avatar. I'm trying to be a little bit green this week. Yeah. Here's hoping for some tomatoes and marigolds, and take a look.
We look at billionaire dropouts, unicorn startups, and highly optimized algorithms, studying their exact steps so we can reverse engineer their success. This reliance on the highly visible champions is a cognitive shortcut known as the availability heuristic. We assume the winners standing at the finish line represent the entire dataset of reality. We study the college dropout who built an empire. We ignore the 10,000 other dropouts who followed the exact same routine, worked just as hard, and went bankrupt. Relying strictly on the survivors creates a cognitive blind spot. It distorts our understanding of how success occurs. In 1943, Allied forces faced a mathematical crisis. They were losing a devastating number of B-17 bombers to anti-aircraft fire over Europe. Adding heavy armor was necessary, but plating the entire aircraft made it too heavy to fly. The military solution was intuitive. They inspected the planes returning from combat missions, mapped out where the bullet holes were concentrated, and planned to reinforce those heavily damaged areas. They handed this data to the Statistical Research Group at Columbia University, tasking a mathematician named Abraham Wald with optimizing the armor placement. Wald spotted a crucial sampling error. Returning planes showed damage to wings and fuselage, but no hits to the engines. Why? Planes hit there never made it back. Wald inverted their logic. He ordered armor placed exactly where the planes were unharmed. When we mistake a filtered sample of survivors for the general population, we reinforce the strongest areas and leave our most vulnerable systems unprotected. This filtering process shapes modern scientific publishing, where the industry acts as an invisible filter for success. Over 90% of drug candidates entering clinical trials fail. Yet, because 96% of standard publications report only positive results, the file drawer of research is filled with null results and failed experiments that never get written up. Textbooks then compile these surviving theories into a straight line of breakthroughs. This omits the dead-end hypotheses and the chaotic trial and error that defines 90% of drug development and basic science. When students encounter errors in their own labs, they are often unaware that the graveyard of previous failures even exists. Without that data as a reference point, normal struggle can look like a personal lack of talent rather than a standard part of the scientific process. By hiding the missing bullet holes of scientific failure, education sets an impossible standard where healthy, productive struggle is mistaken for inadequacy. In machine learning, this is the good model trap. Algorithms are trained on successful historical data, teaching the machine to replicate the filters of the past. In 2014, Amazon attempted to build a hiring tool to predict top engineering candidates based on the resumes of people who had historically succeeded at the company. Because the historical workforce was overwhelmingly male in this headcount data, the model associated maleness with success. In technical roles, the imbalance is even more extreme. The tool replicated this by downgrading resumes from women's colleges and privileging male-coded verbs. The industry amplifies these successful outputs while burying thousands of failed, hallucinating iterations. This creates a false impression of stability in AI engineering. An AI trained exclusively on survivors doesn't learn objective truth. It learns to scale our historical blind spots. We apply this selection mechanism to the modern classroom. Institutions point to top-performing outliers as proof that their rigid educational structures work. Standardized testing optimizes for a specific type of cognitive processing, one that is linear, predictable, and fits within the constraints of a rigid grid. The students who do not fit this mold are cleaned out of the visible dataset. This exclusion artificially boosts the performance averages of the remaining cohort. Like the military officers focusing on the fuselage, we focus on the survivors. We treat the traits of those who made it through as the universal standard, ignoring the flaws in the system that filtered them. If the system only rewards one cognitive profile, then the missing data, the bullet holes in the engines, represents the neurodivergent and non-traditional minds the system was not designed to see. What happens to a civilization that designs its architecture around its lucky anomalies and visible survivors? We misinterpret visibility and statistical luck, like flipping heads 10 times in a row, as pure grit. We ignore the graveyard of thousands who did the same things and still failed. Systems built only on success become brittle. Ignoring failures makes these structures vulnerable to unexpected stressors and edge cases the survivors never encountered. When we worship the survivor to the exclusion of all else, we lock out the potential hidden in the non-survivors. To find the missing beta in education, we look at the environment standard metrics often overlook, the special needs classroom. Traditional models assume learning is a one-way street, where information flows strictly from teacher to student. A student with unique cognitive processing reverses this flow. The educator is forced to rethink the mechanics of instruction and adapt communication to fit the learner. Standard metrics are unaware of this mutual human growth because they are designed to track only standard, expected outputs. The lesson from Abraham Wald is that to build a resilient system, we must stop counting the planes that return and start learning from the empty spaces in between.